We have to think about a new way forward in our faith and also in our politics. We need a better path forward that embraces what do people actually need, what do they actually want, and how do we build a more equitable society that promotes all of their human flourishing so people have the choice to either go into the workforce or stay at home with their kids, where a family can live comfortably off of one person in the household working full-time. A country that is not the largest exporter of arms, bombing children in other countries. This is not complicated stuff. But for some reason, it just seems like unfathomable in our current political climate. It's crazy to me. Are you ready, April? I don't even know where to start.
Ready is a strong word. We are here.
We are here. We're here, everyone.
We are here.
Kind of. Wow. Okay, let's just roll the stinger and get that out of the way. So, this
Hello, everybody.
This is a cold egg roll in my hand, April. I've been eating a lot of junk food the past couple hours, days, months, years.
Fair.
I don't know.
Fair.
And I'm gonna eat it on air because I just need, I need to feel comforted somehow. So I figured a cold egg roll in the morning would do it.
We all grieve in our own ways, so there's no wrong way to grieve. Wow. I hope everyone listening can hear the smack noises. This is like T&E becomes ASMR.
I took too big of a bite.
We have been broken. Officially, we are. I don't even know what this show is. It's different. Now I'm going to whisper to you. Listen to the chew.
I'm still chewing. I took such a big bite. Hold on.
Wait,
I'm
what
almost
I
done.
did, the snaps, they do that.
Hold on. Okay.
Listen.
Blueberry coffee will wash it down.
So
what
attractive.
What a combo.
Wow.
Wow. Well, April. Yeah.
It's been a week.
Where do we start? Hi, audience. We can start there. We're all here. Let's just start there. We are here. We are together. We are watching this. We're talking to you. So we made it through the election so far. But I know a lot of us, probably most of us watching and listening, are pretty freaking terrified and are not happy and are kind of bewildered because, let's face it, April, this election wasn't even close. It was not a close election. Yeah. Unlike all the pollsters and all the rhetoric about it, this is razor thin. The data says this was not razor thin. Harris did not overperform in any county in the country. Trump only gained ground among all types of people, including Latino men and Gen Z, and every swing state went in Trump's direction. Mm-hmm. So we have to just sit with that reality for a little bit, and then we got to figure out, how did we get here? What are all of the factors that went into this? And then what do we do going forward? Because I'm not sure about you, April. I've been racking my brain trying to understand what I'm missing. How does a man who runs on a platform of consistent dehumanization, a man who last election cycle helped incite an insurrection, how does a man who lies more than he tells the truth, how does that man win over 75 million people?
Yep.
That's a big question to ask.
It is a big question. And this is the first time in a while that a Republican has won the popular vote.
Yeah, since 2004. Yeah. So something is amiss. Now here's the thing. The reality is, I'm probably going to say some things that are going to be not everyone's favorite. I will also admit that there's a lot of chaos in my mind trying to make sense of this, so I can't say that I'm going to be the most coherent in this episode, but I do think there's a lot of factors at play that has given us Trump and everything that he stands for this election cycle. And what scares me the most is the people that he will bring into his administration. The fact that RFK might become like one of the big top dogs over our public health department is wild to me. This man says, get fluoride out of water. What is he talking about? Fluoride helps reduce the amount of infections. In fact, I read on some epidemiologists had like a study that they released and said that when fluoride was removed from the water in a certain part, I think it was in Canada or the US, infections in children went up by 700%. Like, I don't know why RFK, who's an anti-vax conspiratorial thinker, is somehow this close to that kind of power in our US system. I don't understand it.
I don't understand it either. The people that Trump is going to surround himself with this time are going to just be yes people. And they all just seem, maybe not all, but a good chunk of them seem slightly unhinged.
I don't... Maybe you and I are too much in an online bubble where we are hearing people who the average Trump voter does not know about. I don't think the average Trump voter knows names like Doug Wilson or Joel Webbin or even Nick Fuentes. I don't. I really don't. I don't even think the average voter knows what Project 2025 is. And if they do, it's been given to them by right-wing media. And this is my first big thing. This is my first big come to Jesus moment. I got to tell Democrats out there. And to be clear, I'm not a Democrat. Never have been. I'm not some like, oh my gosh, the Democratic Party is the only way to save America. I've never thought that. In fact, April, you and I have been very critical of that party, especially when it comes to Gaza and other issues. But now that we're past the election, I can be a little more unfiltered. So is it okay if I just kind of give you some of my thoughts on this real quick?
Go for it.
Okay. I've been holding this in now. But I got to be blunt with the audience, because one thing I don't do to the audience is I don't lie to them. I've been privileged to be behind the scenes in some of these more democratic, progressive spaces and some of these mainline Christian spaces. They're all full of great people who really care about their neighbor and the least of these and advocating for the well-being of all of their neighbors. I love that. But my gosh, for over a year now, I've been beating the drum that these people do not understand that right-wing media and what now is being called new media is online. It's TikTok, it's Instagram, it's Twitter, it's Rumble, it's YouTube. And the reality is that right-wing media shellacked mainstream and whatever you call left-wing media in this election. So when someone listens to Joe Rogan, or someone like that, right? They're getting this very right-wing perspective. It's not presented that way. It's not, but that's what it is. And so when you hear about Project 2025, it comes through Charlie Kirk or Joe Rogan. So it's minimized and, the radical left's trying to paint us this picture that we're somehow crazy. Then, of course, it turns out once Trump wins, many of them come out and say, no, we're all about Project 2025. Like Benny Johnson said that. I can show the tweet. Matt Walsh said that. Of course, people would say that he's just joking, but he's not. So we really underestimated right-wing media. That we underestimate that they've been building networks and coalitions for years. The Daily Wire, PragerU, Turning Point USA, The Blaze. Those 4 organizations last year alone did $300 million in funding. They have millions of followers across all of their brand accounts. They do billions of views. In fact, I actually have... Did I program this one? I'm not sure if I have the tweet here. Let me see if I can get it. I texted this to someone today. Charlie Kirk said this. Let me pull it up here. And I just said to myself, exactly. You know what? I'm going to get this on my computer real quick and put it on the screen for the audience. We do not understand at all how right-wing media has been utilizing these spaces, and we need to wake up to it. So here's what Charlie Kirk said. Oh, my God, that's the wrong thing. Hold on, friends. I'm getting there. Okay, put it here. I got to do a little in-the-moment programming. Okay, here we go. So Charlie Kirk tweeted, our Prove Me Wrong campus debate clips were seen 2.1 billion times this semester on TikTok, Instagram, X, and YouTube. The vast majority of those were viewed by 18 to 29-year-olds, and the Kamala campaign never knew how to counter. young people showed up for Trump. He's absolutely right, because Gen Z did really well for Trump, more than was expected, especially among white men. Who do you think Charlie Kirk targets? 2.1 billion times. I don't care how much you go on MSNBC or CBS or CNN. You're not going to be seen 2.1 billion times, and you're not going to be seen by white young Gen Z voters. Heck, you're not going to be seen by Gen Z, period, because I'm a millennial. I see Rachel Maddow when she goes viral on X. Right. I don't ever watch her show. Does anyone watching this ever go, oh my God, it's 8 o'clock, gotta catch X show on MSNBC? Who does that? No one does that. And so I'm ranting about this because I've been beating this drum for so long that if you don't utilize social media, if you don't utilize X, and if you don't start investing, by the way, in people and personalities, this is exactly what happens, because people don't trust organizations. And that's not a progressive or conservative thing. That's just a people thing right now. I don't trust them. I have an inherent distrust of any big organization, but I trust people, right? I trust personalities. People trust other people. And for so long, Matt Walsh, Charlie, Ali Stuckey, Ben Shapiro, I can go down the list, right? Benny Johnson. They've been building trust with their audience year after year after year, telling them about the threat of the radical left, which, by the way, is such a freaking farce, because Kamala's campaign was such a moderate campaign. Dick Cheney endorsed her. Trust me, no one who's a leftist was celebrating a Dick Cheney endorsement of Harris. I promise you. But regardless, Benny tells people, or whoever else, these right-wing media people, tell their audience about the threat of the left-wing agenda, and then tell their audience that they're the only ones who can give them the cure. And so this is what happens. This is what happens. And I've been talking to people on the inside for so long, like, guys, you got to get online. You got to put money behind online spaces. You got to think about online engagement. And I hope that this is some kind of come to Jesus moment, because my gosh, like, ridiculous. Of course you got shellacked. Look at who people listen to. They don't listen to mainstream media anchors. They just don't.
Yeah. And I think too, like, there's so much misinformation in right-wing spaces. Like, we know how they spin it. They've been saying, no, Project 2025 is not Trump's plan. And if you're only listening to right-wing media, and we cannot ignore the Russia part in all of this, who put money behind a lot of right-wing content creators to push that out. They were putting ads out there. Like, Russia interfered with this election again. Like, you can go and Google it. It's all over the internet. So, and then anyway, I could go on the whole Putin angle and how he's happy today that Trump won, and it's weird that regardless, though, if you are a moderate or just like a not very engaged person politically, and all you are consuming is right-wing rhetoric, which you are absolutely correct in that it does not reveal itself as being right-wing rhetoric. It reveals itself as being common sense and, like, anti-establishment and what the politicians don't want you to know. It veils itself as the no nonsense, like, we're telling you the truth, but in reality, it is right-wing propaganda. And I do think for a lot of, working class people, which I'm sure we'll get into, I think was the big switch and what really gave Trump the victory here. All they're seeing is they're still recovering from inflation. They are probably struggling paycheck to paycheck. And when they look at how they are struggling, they don't want an establishment. And I think the Democrats in general, they're playing by the same rules that they've always played by over the last several decades, and they have not changed their campaign to match the times.
Yes. I mean, as far as I know, inflation, I think it's at only like 2.5% right now.
Right. So I'm saying, like, the economy is actually good right now.
Here's the thing, right? Not to cut you off. You're right, but also prices have stayed the same. So these massive companies haven't lowered their prices as inflation has lowered, right? So you're still paying more at the grocery store.
They're price gouging.
Right. Yeah. If you look at corporate profits, they're doing great. Like, they're higher than ever. So, and again, like, this is it's amazing how the right-wing world convinces people to vote against their self-interest, right? Because voting for Trump, who loves corporate America, who loves treating his employees like absolute shit, does not actually help the working class. Trump is not pro-union. Trump is not pro-workers' rights. Trump loves, he ran a corporation that tried to extract the most amount of labor for the least amount of pay, right? And so, again, when you really think about it, it makes no sense. But, again, you're right. If the other option is the quote-unquote establishment, and it's framed that way, right? And you're just a working guy or girl trying to survive in this economy. You're just trying to put food on the table for your kids. The grocery bill hasn't gotten lower. It's only gotten higher. Clothing is more expensive. Your interest rates on your mortgage are higher. Car rates are ridiculous. Who are you going to blame? I can't fault those people for that. I understand that. I really do. But like, my gosh, the Democratic agenda, they went more moderate. They ran on a moderate agenda. I was at the DNC, friends. I was there watching Adam Kinzinger, Liz Cheney show up. I watched them. The military is our greatest, the greatest, military in the world. Like, what are we doing here? Like, I'm sorry. I don't agree necessarily with this propaganda, with how it's used, but I agree with the sentiment that I don't want to be in endless wars. I don't. I understand what's happening in Ukraine and Russia for sure. Don't misunderstand that. I'm all about, like, what Russia did is horrible, and we have to defend Ukraine. And same thing with Israel-Palestine. We have to stop funding Israel's mass slaughter of the Palestinian people. I do not want to be in endless wars overseas. I don't want the U.S. meddling in the Middle East, etc. So I understand how some of these more populist sentiments do ring true for a lot of people. I really do. But to have them wrapped up in a man like Trump, whose entire platform was the dehumanization of the other, I'm sitting here wondering what my neighbors are thinking when they hear Trump do this stuff and go, he's still my guy. Like, what are we advocating for as a country?
Well, if you're consuming right-wing propaganda, I don't know that you're hearing that stuff unless you are someone who's like really, really MAGA. Like, I believe there's a good percentage of people that voted for Trump who know exactly who he is and vote for him because of that, because they're also racist and misogynist, and he hates the same people that they hate. And there's a good chunk of people that like Trump because of that.
Yep.
I think most people that voted for him, though, they just can't know. Like, I mean, I have people that I know in my personal life that I'll be like, oh my gosh, did you hear Trump say this? And they're like, no. Like, most people don't pay attention. Most people are not watching Donald Trump's rallies. They're not watching the news. They're not hearing him degrade immigrants nonstop and degrade trans people and see the hatred.
And degrade Harris too, right? The comments even about Harris. So
the
disgusting.
Misogyny. Yeah.
Gross.
Most people are not hearing that. And if they are, and if they're being targeted by right-wing media, then if it's being defended, it's like, oh, he didn't mean that. It was just a joke. They have ways of spinning it just enough. And when everyone in those circles are agreeing, yeah, it was just a joke. He didn't really mean that. He's not that bad. Insurrection. It was just all a witch hunt. He didn't actually do all of those things. Then you can vote for him because your conscience is clear, because you just don't believe reality.
Right. Yeah, and I agree. Not to mention, and we have to say this, there's absolutely an element that Harris was a black woman running for president. Like,
that's a huge element. Huge element.
Absolutely. And I can hear some of my conservative friends listening to this saying, oh, Tim, you're ridiculous. No, that's absolutely a factor here. It is absolutely a factor. I know many people who hold the view that women should not be in charge of anything. They should not be able to lead countries. They shouldn't be able to lead in church. No man should be ruled by a woman. That is a massive part of this, 100%. And this right-wing media manosphere reinforces that, right? The trad wife movement. Hey, Charlie Kirk, the best thing you can do, women, is find yourself a good husband, have as many kids as possible, as soon as you can, and live a quiet life. That is the mantra that these people push towards women and towards young men. Right.
Yeah, so and that's Harrison Butker too. The reason why Harrison Butker went viral, like, that's a very common.
Benny Johnson has said, young men, If if you want to live a life that is fulfilling, find yourself a wife, have more kids than you can afford, as fast as possible. What are we? How? That makes no sense, Benny. We can't even get guaranteed affordable health care in the country. You want people popping out children with what health care? How do they afford the medical bills? How do they afford diapers? How do they afford a place to live? How do they afford for mom to stay at home and dad only to have one job at 40 hours a week? How in this economy do they do that? Period. And this is not just a Biden thing. This is for a long time we've been talking about how where's affordable health care? Where is affordable child care? Where is this stuff? So it is very frustrating, and I'm trying to make sense of it. I'm trying to understand. Again, I try to be introspective. I asked a friend of mine, I said, hey, you voted for Trump. I'm here to listen. Give me your perspective. Why did you vote for this person? Like, what am I missing that to help me make sense of how 71 million people in this country can watch what Trump has done to our politics, the amount of vulgar and just dehumanization that he pushes, the lies. How do you see all of that and go, yeah, no, I'm definitely pulling the lever? How? I don't understand. He takes no accountability for anything. And what really aggravates me, April, and I'm sorry I'm a little ranty today, but I'm just so fired up. What really bothers the hell out of me is watching right-wing media and how not good faith they are. Harris conceded, said we're going to help out the Trump administration. Trump still hasn't conceded the 2020 election.
I know.
It's always one-sided. And this is when I get real, almost radical. Why are we even playing ball with these folks? Why are we trying to coddle this part of America? The people who sit there and go, we don't want to compromise. We don't believe in good faith dialogue. We don't believe in give and take. We're here to take over. And somehow we think if we shake their hand and say, no, we're here to play nice, somehow that's going to solve the problem. It doesn't. Let me show you a tweet. I want to show people a tweet. This is what just sends me. That's the wrong one. This one. Matt Walsh, after the election, posted this. Need help urgently. Please post the best examples of lib meltdowns in the thread below. I'm deeply concerned that I may be missing some of the best ones. I don't want to miss any because they make me very happy. Thank you. I'm going to say something that I might get a little flack for, but this is just a reality. Matt Walsh is an asshole. I'm sorry, he just is. This is the take. This is the take. This is who we're working with here in America. It's not about good faith anything for these people. And when I go to these events and I hear them and I see what they're saying, I do not know why we're playing ball in that sense. They're not here to play ball. They are here to take over. They're only happy if they get their way 100%. They're only happy if trans people don't exist. They're only happy if every immigrant that they don't like is kicked out of the country.
Yeah. Well, and Michelle Obama infamously said, when they go low, we go high. And we've seen that happen over and over and over again. But the second we go a little bit low, think Joe Biden saying that Trump supporters were garbage, even if it was misinterpreted.
Right.
They lose their minds. They lose their minds. They literally, I don't know how many Halloween costumes I saw of people in garbage bags. Literally, some people are going to the polls wearing trash bags.
Totally.
They turn it into this whole thing. And I literally saw a woman who I'm in a Christian Pray for America group with, who tweeted I will never forgive the left for how awful they've been to us and how how much they demonize us. They just live in a different reality because Donald Trump gets up on a stage and says, they hate you. They want to trans your kids. They want to kill your kids. They want to eat your pets. There is this, it's just a misinformation campaign. And when you control the message, you can control what people do. It is one of the main tactics of Christian nationalism, which we have not brought up. We have not brought up the Christian nationalism in all of this, which is that 81% of white evangelicals voted for Trump again. He did not lose anyone. He did not lose anyone after trying to overthrow a fair election. He did not lose anyone after being convicted of paying off a porn star and then lying about it. He did not lose anyone when a judge said that there is great evidence that he raped E. Jane Carroll. He didn't lose a single Christian, and those Christians had the audacity to get mad at me when I went viral over the weekend for saying that I am a Christian voting for Kamala Harris, and I was getting freaking death threats. I got death threats for that. And he didn't lose a single Christian, white evangelical.
Which is why I say more than ever, if you're in a white evangelical church, leave. Get the hell out of Dodge. Whatever is in the white evangelical psyche, and really, honestly, at this point, April, even white Protestant psyche, because most white Protestants went for Trump. Get out. Get out. Find a better faith tradition. Seriously, like, get the hell out of there. It is bankrupt.
I just want to say, too, he did lose some people, because I personally know of several people who did not vote for Trump this time around, who voted for him last time, who are white evangelical. So I'm wondering, though, if maybe a lot of people left but the number just stayed the same because the people that, I don't know. So I don't want to just be doom and gloom, though, because I think there is hope. I know of a lot of people that changed, that their eyes have been open. I think more and more people are going to change over the next 4 years. I don't think a lot of people realize what they've done. Forgive them, Lord. They know not what they do. Feels very poignant right now. But I don't want to. Yeah,
I think a lot about Black women right now because they did the work. I mean, I'm just so frustrated for them. I'm frustrated for my trans friends. I understand for sure the sentiment of like the elitism that we hear about in Democratic spaces. I get that for sure. I really do. However, being anti-intellectual and believing conspiracy theories and then voting for a world of make-believe is not the answer to that, right? It's not. It just isn't. And it's so hard to stomach the fact that, again, like the people that Trump wants to bring in really do believe in theocracy. And I can imagine people listening to me who don't agree with me saying you're being extreme. And then I go, I've been sharing clips of people who love Trump for a year talking about this, saying how they want to go down to the local CVS and flush down the drain every single type of contraceptive. I mean, we have someone we're going to play in a second saying, yes, we do own your bodies. Donald Trump. I mean, this is how effective, April. And we'll get to the good stuff, I guess, maybe more positive in a minute, but I'm not done venting. Donald Trump sat down with an openly white supremacist, Holocaust-denying maniac named Nick Fuentes for dinner just a few years ago, and it rolled off him. It didn't even stick. What? How? There's only two things. There's only two roads I have in my head. Most people didn't know about that. That's what I hope is the truth. Or people knew about it and didn't care, and then that scares me. Because you look at, and people often say, Tim, you want to know why we don't like people like you? You called us Nazis. You called us fascists. Guys, if you look at the freaking history of how fascism rose in Nazi Germany, and then you look at what Trump says, you see a very clear parallel. Like, do not come at me for people giving you evidence that you should be concerned about what Trump brings to a White House. Like, do not look at me for telling you, hey guys, there is some similarities in the way that Trump runs propaganda and the way Hitler did before he took power. And then what happened after he took power. And that's the thing is it's never a willingness to acknowledge maybe we're missing something. Hey guys, maybe if there's a historical precedent for why scholars of fascism are concerned about the rise of fascism in America, maybe we should be concerned about that. Maybe it's not about policies. Maybe it's not about conservative, liberal. Maybe it's about fascism or anti-fascism, right? Yeah. And this is what really gets me like so aggravated is that don't yell at me or April or someone else for pointing out the obvious. When Hitler says that, Jews are poisoning the blood of our society, and Trump says immigrants are poisoning the blood of our society, our antennas should go up. Because, oftentimes, April, right, people go, and I do this all the time. I used to do it when I was a kid reading about the Israelites. Oh, how could the Israelites be so silly, not trusting God, right? And we do the same thing. Oh, how could someone like Hitler rise to power in Germany? That's crazy. What were those people thinking? Well, you're looking at the elements of what could breed something like that here. It would look different for sure. It wouldn't be the same exact thing, but the elements are very similar. A strong man, a man who uses propaganda, a man who likes to build in groups and out groups. We're the true Americans. They're the enemy from within. We're the true Americans. Immigrants are destroying the country. Right? We're the true Americans. The left wants to, they hate you. This grievance politics is a foundational core to what builds authoritarian regimes. Yeah. And 71 million people pulled the trigger for it.
I wonder if there are any people back at the first rise of Hitler, right? Before he fully took over and started slaughtering millions of Jews. I wonder if people then were like, yeah, I don't really like what he says about the Jews, but have you seen the price of bread lately? That kind of feels like what a lot of people did. They looked at their pocketbooks. They didn't like what they saw. They don't necessarily like the way Trump talks about other people, but they chose their finances over other humans.
And honestly, I'm going to say something that might get me in trouble, but the Democratic Party is to blame for this as well. You gave us Joe Biden and tried to run Biden again, and then you switched out someone last minute, and you put $1 billion behind a campaign that didn't even know how to engage social media correctly, and you try to appeal to moderates. It didn't work, guys. Yeah. Newsflash. And also, by the way, Dearborn, Michigan, which is a huge Muslim community, they voted for Trump. I wonder why. I wonder why. Fury over, I don't know, Gaza. Like they at the DNC, they refuse to put up one Palestinian voice on that stage.
And if you look at the data, 81 million people voted for Biden in 2020. So far, Harris only has about 68 million, which it's not all in yet, so that number will go up. But they lost about 15 million, probably, votes of people that maybe some of them went for Trump, but I think most of them just sat out or voted third party. It was, here's the thing. We can look back and there are so many people to blame. I also want to blame Mitch McConnell for not impeaching Trump. When he first literally tried to overthrow the country. You can blame Merrick Garland for not bringing charges earlier. You can blame the Democrat Party in 2016 when they pushed Bernie out in favor of Hillary Clinton.
Yes.
Like there are so many, we can go way, way back on how Trump has become this force that we now have to reckon with again. Democrats are definitely to blame. I think they have some pride that they need to deal with, that they want to keep things the way that they are. But the reality is things are not the way that they were anymore. Trump has ruined that. And I do say with Trump wanting to bring in tariffs, which is a very anti-Republican position, historically speaking, I think we're going to be seeing potentially somewhat of a party switch because you have people now, right? Because Donald Trump, the Republican Party is not the Republican Party. It's the party of Trump at the moment. And Donald Trump is running on some policies that really are not historically Republican either. He's kind of an anomaly. And so the Democrats now are going to have to, honestly, probably reposition themselves to be a newer version of the Democrat Party in order to combat what the Republican Party has become.
100%. By the way, the world's 10 richest people got a record $64 billion richer from Trump's reelection. I'm not surprised, but this is just
right.
This is how it goes.
He's going to benefit the billionaires. And
yes, of course.
And that's the sad part in all of this is you do have all these people who are so fed up with the establishment. The system was not working for them. And so they voted for Trump because he has promised to just burn down the system and start over. And they were like, you know what? Yes, that's what I want because I'm struggling. It's not working for me. Burn it all down. Let's start over. And I think Trump's going to just make it worse, actually. But
for sure,
they voted for something that they're not going to actually get in the long run.
Look, I'm imagining that we're going to get a decent amount of flack in the comments here for some of what we're saying. But I frankly, I don't care. I don't care. I'm sorry, friends. You could disagree with me, of course. I'm not saying you have to agree with everything I or April am saying. But my gosh, we got to take a look in the mirror here. We have to take a look in the mirror And I'm not going to just blame it on, oh, it's just because of Trump. What gave rise to Trump? What was the vacuum that Trump is filling? What is the sentiment that he tapped into, right? Because you're right, April, the system doesn't work for me. Okay, like it doesn't. Like I scraped by in New Jersey to make it work. I mean, even before I did this work full time, like I had to just do my best. I didn't have a college degree. I still don't. You know, I tried to make it work here, make it work there, doing odd jobs, doing whatever I could to try and just survive. So I get it. The system does not work. It's a crazy expensive to own a house. Car interest rates are through the roof. The average American doesn't have enough money in their savings to survive $1,000 emergency expense. And we had both Democrats and Republicans in office for a lot of years. Okay. Yeah. So I don't want to hear it from people who are hardcore Democrats like, oh, well, Tim, you know, it's all the Republicans' fault. Sorry, because Democratic elites, you know, your corporate mega donors who buy off some of these people, these establishment types, are also to blame. And we have to think about a new way forward. We say this all the time. Yeah. We have to think about a new way forward in our faith and also in our politics. Not ones that embraces the dehumanization of Trump, of course, and the lies and the arrogance and the anti-intellectualism. No, but we need a better path forward that embraces what do people actually need, what do they actually want, and how do we build a more equitable society that promotes all of their human flourishing? So people have the choice to either go into the workforce or stay at home with their kids, where they're not forced to make one decision or the other, right? Where a family can live comfortably off of one person in the household working full time. And they have their health care, and they have a pension, and they have savings, and their kids can go to college, and they're not going into debt for it, right? A country that is not the largest exporter of arms, bombing children in other countries. This is not complicated stuff. But for some reason, it just seems like unfathomable in our current political climate. It's crazy to me.
Yes, I do agree that Democrats they are to blame for a lot of this. Me personally, though, I would put the most blame on white supremacy that still is very much alive in the country, and misogyny, because the only two Democrats that have lost in the last 2 decades were women. And I think it's a little naive to just I don't think it's more on Democrats than that, but there is a lot of misogyny in this country.
Well, you know, I should be more clear, because when I was at the DNC, it was so diverse, and there are a lot of people who are not white in the Democratic Party. So I'm not blaming your rank and file Democrats. I'm not blaming those people. I'm talking more about the people at the upper crust who shape, Democratic policy. The people who told Harris, don't talk about Palestine, right? No, it doesn't bode well for our campaign. The people who decided to have military generals and Dick Cheney endorse Harris. Those people. Those are the ones I look at and I go, where are you tapped into any of this? Are you listening to your own base? Why aren't we running AOC, for example? Great speaker, young, compelling, has great policies, articulate. Why isn't she running? How about Pete Buttigieg? Right. I mean, there are so many people in the party who are compelling, who are young, who are ready to go. And for some reason, we got Biden until the last minute, and then we got Harris. It's I'm sorry. But you're right. I do agree. I mean, Republicans are the ones that I put most of the blame on, for sure. Make no mistake. But to make it, I just want to be clear that I have no problem holding even the party that I voted for accountable and saying, guys, you're missing it. You are absolutely missing a huge swath of American culture and needs, and you're not communicating well at all, even if you have these views, and you have to get with the program, because legacy media ain't it. It ain't it.
Well, and just big picture here. Notice how when Democrats lose, they generally figure out what went wrong. What did we do that was wrong? Bernie Sanders called out the Democrat Party too. Yep. Obviously, there's a lot of Russia played a big part. There was a lot of money behind right-wing propaganda, for sure. It all plays a part. Yes. But notice, I don't hear anyone calling that the election was stolen. Trump suddenly our elections are very fair.
Yes.
And Trump never conceded 2020 election. And the Republicans never had that conversation that are still in that party about what went wrong in 2020 when Joe Biden won. It was all Democrats' fault. They cheated, they lied, And that is that's just an eye-opening difference.
Yes.
If you were just looking at the two parties, one party is trying to play by the rules and the other party is not.
I don't want to overemphasize my point, and I think you're completely right, 100%. Now I've seen a few. I'm going to be fair. I've seen a few people who are liberal be like, I don't know, guys, kind of suspicious, but nothing to the degree or seriousness of what we saw last election cycle, where there was, again, a mass media push by right-wing media sowing so much disinformation, especially on then Twitter, about the election being stolen, that then took such a deep root in their psyche, where to this day, Trump and people like him believe the election was stolen despite all the data. It is night and day, right? The fact that Harris conceded, that she gave a speech congratulating Trump, they play by different rules entirely. And yes, it is. Isn't it funny, April, how all of a sudden, not a whiff from right-wing media or Trump about election fraud? If you were gonna pull election fraud, right? If you were gonna be something, if you were gonna say something looks real suspicious, it would be this election. Like, wait, I don't get it. Like the vote count seems way lower than we expected. Harris didn't flip one state. I'm just saying, if you were gonna be conspiratorial, this would be the election to think about. But of course, Trump doesn't really care about election interference. That's a dog whistle for we lost, boo-hoo. So we're dealing with people who are sore losers and sore winners, right? When they lose, they cry foul. When they win, they just want to shove it in your face and say, fuck you, this is what you get, LOL, ha, we won. They are immature children. And I don't mean I don't mean 70 million Americans, okay, people? I'm talking about your media people, the people who are the most diehard sycophants, the trolls on the internet. They are children. And it's very frustrating to know that we just put the king of the children in power for the next 4 years with a Senate that is red and probably a House and a Supreme Court.
Yeah. You know what? We also can't... white evangelical pastors are to blame, because there was some kind of organized effort to give very similar sermons across America. We played that clip of Josh Howerton a couple weeks ago where he says, politics, or the church isn't getting more political, politics are getting more spiritual. And it literally does this whole little speech. I've seen two other pastors, like people messaged me clips of other pastors, of at least 3 that I found, and I haven't done a deep dive yet, who gave practically a verbatim sermon of that Josh Howerton clip. It's almost like, I don't know if they sent out the sermon to everybody, but when you have good meaning people, like there's neighbors, there's people in our neighborhood who are friends with our kids. They're pastors, and I know they voted for Trump because their little girl told us. They're really good, like they're kind people. But they also believe, like, you vote biblical values, that Republicans are voting for biblical values, mainly over abortion. Like, most of the comments that I've received still from that side are, you can't vote for Harris because she's for abortion. That was the main thing, at least that I was seeing. And so there's this, there's still a misinformation around that topic as well. And I don't know, Christian nationalism is, if the white evangelicals split, it's a different election, instead of 81% going for Donald Trump. Can you just show that
what?
Show the screenshot of the Facebook thing going around? Yes. If you're on Facebook, you've probably seen this. It's going around. I've seen it dozens of times already. It says, "To think that God ordained a filthy-minded, adulterous, wealthy man with evil in his heart to preside over a nation challenges my self-righteous understanding. But he did, and that sinful man, by grace, gave us the Psalms. Hashtag King David." Now, there is a big difference between King David and Donald Trump.
I'm incredulous.
King David was known as the man after God's own heart. Donald Trump is not that by any means. Here's a big difference, right? King David has a whole psalm dedicated to forgiveness and repentance. Have mercy on me, O God. This is Psalm 51. According to your unfailing love, according to your great compassion, blot out my transgressions, wash away all my iniquity, and cleanse me from my sin. There is David asking God to forgive him of his sins, apologizing, being humble. Can we show what Donald Trump has said about
yes,
forgiveness
right now? Yes. Okay, hold on. Okay, I'm getting it. I have it. This is it, right? Just play?
Yep. Yeah, just play it.
Because you used the word Christian. Have you ever asked God for forgiveness? That's a tough question. I don't think in terms of, I'm a religious person. Shockingly, because people are so shocked when they find this out, I'm Protestant, I'm Presbyterian. And I go to church and I love God and I love my church. And Norman Vincent Peale, the great Norman Vincent Peale was my pastor. The Power of Positive Thinking. Everybody's heard of Norman Vincent Peale. He was so great. He would give a sermon you never wanted to leave. Sometimes we have sermons, and every once in a while we think about leaving a little early, right, even though we're Christian. Dr. Norman Vincent Peale, Frank, would give a sermon. I'm telling you, I still remember his sermons. It was unbelievable. And what he would do is he'd bring real-life situations, modern-day situations, into the sermon. And you could listen to him all day long. When you left the church, you were disappointed that it was over. He was the greatest guy. And then, you know, he passed away, but he was a great... He wrote The Power of Positive Thinking, which is a great book.
But have you ever asked God for forgiveness?
Even back then, wouldn't answer questions.
I'm not sure I have. I just go and try and do a better job from there. I don't think so. I think
Good? Is that good?
Yeah. And then he goes on to say he just doesn't bring God into it, which is like Christianity 101.
It is so like April, like we've talked about, it is so difficult watching the faith tradition that radicalized you never to change your integrity or your moral values and to always think about the Bible and God and Jesus first and let that shape your worldview. It's so infuriating to watch them completely throw away all of those things for Trump and then call you the crazy person, right?
Yeah.
How could you not? What are we doing, church? Like, really, what the hell are we doing when this is the champion? And then we make the most bullshit excuses for him by taking David and saying, look, David wasn't perfect, so neither is Trump. But that never is applied to a Democrat. Never applied to Biden or Harris. It's obvious what you're doing. It's a legitimizing narrative, right? You're creating a new story to legitimize your political position. I'm so fed up. I'm so frustrated to see this. It's just annoying.
Another scripture that I heard a lot from 2016 to 2020, didn't hear at all under Biden's administration. And I saw my first one already yesterday.
Oh, tell me. Do tell.
Romans 13, 1 through 2. Obey the government, for God is the one who has put it there. There is no government anywhere that God has not placed in power. So those who refuse to obey the law of the land are refusing to obey God, and punishment will follow. I haven't seen that verse in 4 years. It's suddenly come back.
April, can I say something?
Yes. You need to put a little trigger warning, like close your ears, turn down the volume.
Josh will lower it. It's fine. I'm so tired. Why are we here? How did we get here, April? Damn it.
Listen, can I just say, I don't believe the rapture anymore, right? The pre-trib. I don't believe it, that there's like a literal antichrist coming necessarily. But if I did, the Revelation literally says that the Antichrist is going to have a fall, a fatal wound, and then come back. What if it was talking about a metaphorical wound where Trump loses, then comes back? Like, the signs are all there. They will wear the mark on their forehead, make America great again.
He almost had a fatal wound when he almost got assassinated. I think that the Bible's clear. I think it's very clear what's happening here.
For the record, I don't actually believe that Trump is the Antichrist. I don't think he's. I saw this TikTok. I'm just going to say it. I saw a TikTok that was like, I really thought whenever the fascists actually did take over, that it would be cooler. It would be like leather and like sunglasses and just like cool. He's like, I just didn't know it would be like that. The people oppressing me would look like my most alcoholic uncle. Was what this guy said. I was like, man, that's it. It is funny. I mean, it's terrifying, but a silver lining in this is the next like 4 years is going to be entertaining. Like, think Sharpiegate, when Trump couldn't admit that he was wrong about where the hurricane was going and then just extended the circle with the Sharpie and thought that we wouldn't all notice. Remember when Sean Spicer, his first White House press secretary, was like hiding in the bushes?
Yes.
I mean, there's going to be funny things that happen. And I'm going to be fighting for the rights of everybody, but I'm also going to laugh at all of the really stupid things because
that's all I can do.
Humor is how we cope, right? And I do want to just acknowledge too, trans people and immigrants that are in this country. Like, if you have friends that fall into either of those categories, and and really any marginalized group, like, check on them. It is really scary what the platforms that they have run on. And to your point, there are people really grieving and really terrified that their life as they knew it is going to change and is going to be heavily oppressed. I take the time that you need to deal with that. There's no right way to grieve. I, for one, am going to be still just as loud, maybe even louder. If anything, I feel more emboldened. It's scary. But there was this, I want to say, there's a book out there called On Tyranny by Timothy Snyder. And I've been seeing a lot of people share this. But one of the main points is if you see authoritarianism on the horizon, okay? And I'm going to hope, knock on wood, it's not going to be as bad as we think, that maybe they rule some of it back.
I'm not hopeful, but yes, hopefully.
Yes. But one of the things is do not obey in advance. It says most of the power of authoritarianism is freely given. Yep. In times like these, individuals will think ahead about what a more repressive government will want and then offer themselves without being asked. A citizen who adapts in this way is teaching power what it can do. Meaning, don't change what you're doing. Whatever you were doing, and honestly, be safe. If you feel unsafe, don't do it. But for me, I'm going to keep doing exactly what I'm doing. Do not obey in advance. I'm not taking this sitting down. Whatever may come.
Okay, let's get to some positive now, okay?
Yeah.
We obviously cannot change the election outcome because we accept results because we believe in peace and the transition of power. We understand that. This is only the beginning. This is the beginning. Welcome to the resistance. We're going from prevention, that didn't work, now to resistance. And I don't mean violent resistance. I mean non-violent way of Jesus resistance. Loving our neighbor well, loving our enemies well, loving those around us well, and fighting for equitable systems and resisting tyranny wherever we can find it, right? This is a whole new ballgame, and we need you more involved than ever. If you believe in seeing the change, this is the time for us to get more organized. This is the time for us to find actual funding so we can do this on a much bigger scale. Don't forget, like we said earlier, Charlie Kirk bragged, 2.1 billion views. You don't get that just through organic reach. That man is well-funded. They have millions of dollars to spend behind ad revenue, etc., and they reach a lot of people. We have to build systems like that where we're pushing a more Jesus-centered, inclusive, and loving narrative, but we're reaching people in those ways. This is not going to be an easy journey. It's not, but we have to, especially if you're a white ex-evangelical or white, deconstructing person or new evangelical. you really have, in my opinion, a sincere obligation to do all you can for the sake of all of our more marginalized neighbors. And this is the time to get motivated like hell. Do not let this paralyze you. Let this radicalize you. I mean that in a good way. Let it radicalize you to be that radical, Jesus-loving, for the sake of my neighbor's person that is willing to get involved in your local system, in federal systems, whatever it takes. Donate to your local nonprofit. Honestly, friends, like whatever you can do. We're a nonprofit. Donate to us so we can keep doing this work. I mean that sincerely. Like whatever it is, we have so much work to do. I know for a fact April is motivated. I'm motivated like hell. We've been working behind the scenes with people for a long time. It's not overnight. This is not a microwave solution. It takes time to build new paths. It takes time to build new coalitions. It takes time to get people amplified on social media. This past year, we've been doing that for now almost a solid year. We've reached millions of people. This podcast is reaching millions of people. We tripled, quadrupled our YouTube growth. We reached millions on Instagram. That's a good start, but it's not enough. And there are more voices to amplify, and there's more work to do. So yes, feel the feelings, mourn, absolutely, feel scared, feel terrified. Let that motivate you to get involved and not to get paralyzed. We need you guys more than ever. I'm not sure about you, April, but something that really hit me, what was it? I guess Wednesday morning, were all the DMs I got of, hey, what are you going to say? Hey, can you please say something? Hey, I'm looking forward to what you have to say. This idea of like, we're looking to you to say something. And I was like, wow, that means it's a heavy weight of like, people are looking to folks like us to say things, right? To be seen, to feel heard. To feel seen and be heard. And I'm like, wow, that's an obligation that we have to continue to showing up on this screen, on the podcast, on social media every day, saying no. As Jesus people, we abhor authoritarianism. We reject white Christian nationalism. We reject a belief system that says our God believes that you're subjugated to us. These voices, and there's more than just us, obviously, are so needed. And we need the funding and the organizational wherewithal to do that. So this is the beginning, friends, for sure. It's not going to be easy. It's going to be scary. I think we're going to see a lot of losses, frankly, over the next 4 years, especially for the rights of all of our neighbors. All the more reason to be involved. All the more reason to learn from the Black church that's been in this fight way longer than most of us white folks, and to stand in solidarity with them and to put our neck on the line for them and with them, and to learn from them and learn how there is this non-violent way of resistance. I want to share a story I've never shared before that I think is so applicable right now. This, honestly, it's like a core memory. I'm standing in line at the DNC to get inside the arena, and there is like a pro-Trump person filming something, and there was like an Antifa person, I guess, like following him. And that Antifa person spit on the Trump person, like spit on his feet. And it was like a real intense moment. I was like, whoa, this is like crazy. And behind me, and I'm going to get choked up saying this because it just hit me. Behind me were two older Black women who saw the whole thing. And with their own sass, they were like, oh no, like, no, we don't spit on people, because we know what it's like to get spit on. And I'm sitting there and I'm like, these people just defended a Trump supporter who was probably there to stir up some trouble because they got spit on, because they know what it's like to be spit on themselves. And I was just like, wow, like, I have so much to learn from folks like this, right? Who even their own political enemy, who stands for everything they don't stand for, they're willing, and they see what happens when we get violent with people, and they go, no, because we know what it's like to be on the receiving end. That was just a huge moment for me where I go, file that away, Tim. File that away, because that's a huge learn. And so we have to find ways of nonviolent resistance, of ways that are full of justice and love and inclusivity, that argue for more equitable systems. And that means combating the fire hose of propaganda that we see coming from right-wing spaces, because Lord knows how disingenuous they are. We've covered this so many times.
Yeah.
So there's work to do, friends. This is only the beginning. And we, April and I, the whole TNE team, we need you more than ever. It's because you listen that this work matters. It's because you donate that this work is possible. I mean that sincerely. Like, without your support, without your donations, this work doesn't happen. And if you want to see organizations like this grow and reach more people, $5 a month, $1 a month, $10 a month. When we all chip in, it really helps to fund this work. So I'm not hopeful in like the ignorant, everything's gonna be fine. No, of course not. But I'm hopeful that out of the ashes of whatever's to come, we're gonna build or plant some new seeds that will take root in some fertile soil to start something more beautiful after we get through it.
Yes. I do want to also say, don't feel stupid for having hope.
Yep.
Don't feel stupid. Like, if you hoped Kamala was going to win, you believed it, don't feel stupid for that. That is a beautiful thing. And if you are grieving right now, that just means that you have not sold your soul. That means that you are aware that you still have empathy, that you have not given up on your humanity, that you are feeling for those that will probably suffer under a Trump administration, that you are kind. And that is nothing to feel ashamed about. And I, for one, am proud that one day when my girls are old enough to understand what's happening right now, that I can look them in the eye and say that I did not vote for that monster, that I stood against him, that I fought for their rights. And another thing too, like this past weekend, I touched on it earlier. We were going to talk about it a lot more, and then Trump won. But I went viral on Twitter, which
you went mega viral. No, you went mega viral. It wasn't. It was big.
Yeah, AOC retweeted me. Shirley from Community. Personal. It was really cool until it wasn't. And then a bunch of right-wing people started quote tweeting me, started literally like spreading like lies about me. And I started getting thousands, like back to back of just the nastiest comments from Christians at me. And it was really scary. I was getting threats. And so I finally, Beach was like, ask for help. Make a video and ask people for help. And I did. I made a video. I just kind of said what was going on. I said, I'm not going to back down. I didn't delete it. I didn't go private. I'm like, I stand by everything that I say.
Totally.
As a Christian, fed up with Christian nationalism and seeing my faith weaponized as a tool of hatred and oppression, I stand by that. And then like hundreds of people started coming to my defense. Tim, you were one. I had Eve was framed. She came to my defense. And I just started getting so many, like thousands of comments and messages of people that were just so kind and encouraging. And then the hate was loud, but the love conquered it. And I believe that's going to happen again. The hate is loud, but that is not a reason to still not have love.
Yep. And this is not the first time that hate has won. This is not the first time in history this has happened. And we can learn how to be part of the resistance, right? We can learn from people. From many people in our own American history. I mean, Jamar Tisby's book, The Spirit of Justice, talks about this. We can learn from Dietrich Bonhoeffer. There's a lot of people that have felt the weight of what we're feeling in history, and they have written about it and they've lived through it. And we have to learn from that, right? Because one thing I don't want to lose is our humanity, April, right? I can see how easy it is to lose our humanity by starting to then call the other, right? No, they're the enemy from within. No, they must be destroyed. And I'm sure in a lot of ways it's a fine line, because how do we, you're navigating with people, or you're dealing with people who want you destroyed as well. So I'm not saying it's always easy or simple, but man, all the more reason to capture our humanity and to double down on it, to double down on what makes us human. The fact that Donald Trump is a human being made in the image of God. That has to be a core belief of how we move forward with a regime that might truly be one of the most authoritarian in American history, especially given that he and his team now have the Senate, the House, and the Supreme Court. I mean, we have to be realistic about this. I don't want to coddle people and make it seem like it's not as bad as you think. No, this is a red alert moment. I've talked to several friends of mine who track fascism and authoritarianism, and they are deeply concerned about the next 4 years. All the more reason to get informed, all the more reason to read laws, to understand how our judicial process is supposed to work, all the more reason to get online yourself and to raise a ruckus, all the more reason to help fund organizations whose work you believe in. This is the moment now to get organized, to build long-term equitable systems. Don't forget, friends, the right-wing media is standing on the shoulders of the moral majority. Jerry Falwell, they're 40, 50 years in. Right-wing talk show hosts, Rush Limbaugh, Sean Hannity, laying the groundwork for what's happened now. It doesn't happen overnight. They've been chiseling away, chiseling. I remember when, just a few years ago, Matt Walsh was seen by most people as like really fringe and radical and like really mean. And now he has a huge following. Nick Fuentes, who's that? Now he's, at least in my space, a very well-known name. He sat down with President Trump, right? So it's incrementalism for these folks. And we have to learn that. We have to learn for us, it's step by step by step. It's one view after one view after one view. It's one person who hears us after one person who hears us after one person who hears us. And in my opinion, we're selling a much better message. One that actually wants the human flourishing of the Trump voter. I want all of my neighbors to have affordable health care. I want every single one of my neighbors not to wake up worrying about co-pays or surprise medical bills. I want my neighbors to have more than one catastrophe worth of life savings stocked away. I want my neighbors to have access to affordable education, right? I want them to have a better life. Not just me, all of them. I want my trans neighbors to have the same rights I do. This should not be considered crazy. Why is it considered radical? Because we've dealt with and we've allowed a right-wing media machine to spin narrative after narrative about the crazy left and how they want to destroy the country. No.
Right. And just think too, like they feel like the conservative Christian, because most of these people claim Christianity. That is a huge factor in this. And they feel like they have a monopoly on Christianity. They feel like they have a monopoly on family values. They think how often do we hear childless cat ladies on the left? Like, and one of their biggest beefs with my tweet was that I said I was a Christian wife and mother. And they were like, no, she's not. She's a progressive. Yeah, I'm a progressive Christian. We exist. And I think it's time to show the country that there is another way to be a Christian that actually follows the teachings of Jesus, that talks about welcoming the foreigner, not kicking them out. Like if you actually go back and read the Gospels, like if you are feeling gaslit, just go read the red letters. Go read the red letters. You will know without a shadow of doubt that you are on the right side. You can hold your head high knowing that you are actually loving your neighbor instead of oppressing them, that you are using the Bible to liberate as opposed to oppress. And there is nothing you should feel any shame about that. That is something you can hold your head high about.
100%.
And people are changing. I've heard from people personally in the last year or so that voted for Trump, that were going to vote for Trump again, and then realized that they're started understanding Christian nationalism and changed. Yeah. People are changing, and I think more people will change over the next 4 years.
Let's end on a positive note.
Okay. Yeah, we were going to play this really awful clip from Nick.
I think most of our audience knows. If people are listening to this, to listen to us all the time, they know. They know exactly what a Trump administration is going to bring. They know exactly the people that are behind it. They know. I say that we land this plane on the positive that you are not alone. We're in this together. April and I are going nowhere. We are only more resolute to do more of this work, bigger and better, and to reach more and more people, to amplify more and more voices. We are all freaking in, baby. Like, I'm a radical Jesus follower. This stuff only fuels my fire. It only fuels it. I'm not going nowhere.
Yeah. And I'm standing on love.
April, you there?
Neighbor.
And you, April, are you going anywhere?
No, I'm not going anywhere. This is becoming a staple. It's my little IUD necklace.
I should get one too. We can have matching ones. I love that.
That would be so, yeah. Listen, it is hard to find hope when, like, I understand. Like, I cried on and off all day yesterday.
Sure, let it out.
Today, I woke up. It's a new day. The sun is still shining. The little birds are still eating the food out of my bird feeder. I understand it can be so easy to go into despair because there are a lot of reasons to do so. And you should take the time. We've got 2 months before Trump becomes the president again. 2 months to recover, have the holidays, spend time with your family, take care of yourself, do some self-care.
Yep.
But we're in this together. We're not going down without a fight.
Yep.
Figuratively.
Yep.
A peaceful fight.
Yes. A peaceful, love your enemy kind of fight.
Yes. And
yes.
We are going to try very hard to be okay.
Yeah, I'm with you. 2025 is coming. There's work to do. Enjoy the holidays. Also, good news, by the time people are hearing this, I'll be probably an hour away from your house, April, because I'm bringing my whole family to hang out with your family for the whole weekend.
I know. We're going to be together.
I'm excited for that.
Can we read that really funny tweet that someone said about us?
Oh, yes. Do you have it? I didn't pull it up.
I'll find it. I'll find it really quick. This will be something fun to end on.
Oh, my God.
I actually think if there's anything that describes us. Oh my gosh, come on. Where are you? New Evangelicals. No, wait, did you tweet it?
Yeah, it's in there. It's way down there.
Here we go.
Okay. Yeah.
I got it. So this was in response to my tweet that was going viral on one of the right-wing accounts. So they're talking about me in the third person. She's networked into the anti-evangelical New Evangelicals. They're going hard after, well, that doesn't matter. Andy, no, right now, which Tim was. Thank you, Tim. They look like polite Antifa, but very well organized and financed. I don't know if y'all remember last week when Tim's computer was just going kaput.
Yeah. Yeah, here I am from my guest bedroom, well organized and well financed. Begging for $5 a month donations because we're so well financed. Like, guys, if 1,000 people give $5 a month, we can survive next month because we're so well financed.
I know, and well organized. Literally in this episode, we're like, where do we go next?
Yeah, I just hired an executive assistant. The poor girl. I'm just like, okay, I have 1,000 thoughts. Where do we even start? It's like, yes, we have plans for years.
But I love polite Antifa. Like, isn't their main thing against Antifa that they think they're like violent anarchists? So why would polite Antifa, which Antifa just means anti-fascist,
that's all it means.
Which we are, like polite Antifa. Like, do we go in and be like, "Oh, that's not loving your neighbor"?
Excuse me, Antifa. That's not loving your neighbor. We're polite Antifa. Yeah. Excuse me, ma'am, sir.
Oh my gosh, I love it. Polite Antifa. Please make merch. We need t-shirts.
I'm with you. All right, cool. Listen, friends, enjoy your weekend. I'm gonna have a great time with April. I'm sure we're gonna be doing stuff on Instagram and all the socials together, hanging out with the family. So make sure you follow us there. We'll talk to you all next week. Have a great day.
Bye.
I ate an egg roll on the air today.
You did. It was a day.
Yeah, it was a day.